Hey everyone, it's Anna. Thanks so much for visiting my channel. I just recently uploaded a video on how to assemble my primitive angel die for Impression Obsession. And so next I thought I would show you how to assemble the standing deer. This little guy released with the October release for Impression Obsession in our country Christmas themed event. And I think he is so cute. So wanted to give you a quick demo on how to assemble him. I've gone ahead and die cut a bunch of pieces here. So I've die cut one layer out of some cheap or inexpensive, shall I say, watercolor paper. This is just a kid's tablet from Target. I like to use that at the base of my tags and critters and things like that I make. It's a nice weight and it die cuts really nicely. So I've die cut it out of that. So you'll see all of those pieces here, and this is his face die cut out of that same paper. Then I've also die cut him out of a cream cardstock, and this is nothing special, just cream colored cardstock. And then I've also die cut him out of this snowflake cardstock, which is from the Echo Park line called I Love Christmas by Lori Whitlock. And it's just this all over snowflake print with the wood grain behind, and it's a cut apart sheet on the other side. But so I thought cutting him out of this snowflake paper would be kind of cute. We'll go ahead and give that a try. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a piece of washi tape over these little polka dots here because I want them to stay in place. I don't want them to fall out of the die cut. And this is going to be my base layer, the very back layer of my embellishment. So I'm going to put a piece of washi against those, and that's going to keep them from falling out. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this piece of the deer over top of the watercolor piece. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to give the die cut piece more stability. So I'm just going to use some, using Tombow liquid multi-glue. It's my favorite white glue. I have used it for years and years and recently just replenished my supply. So I'm ready for Christmas crafting now. I'm going to move this piece of paper out of the way here. That's still a nice piece of paper. I could make something out of that. So I'm just going to adhere those two layers in place. And you can set, if you're having trouble with your die cut lifting and not setting up well, you can set a clear block on top of it to kind of hold things in place. All right. So that should be fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a little bit of color to my die cut piece here. I'm going to use some vintage photo. I have it handy here, and a little blending brush. If I can find it, here it is. And I'm just going to add a little bit of color to the edges of my die cut shape. I'm going to set it down on this little piece of scratch paper, and just using a brush here, brush on some ink. And this just adds just some visual dimension to your die cut. So, and because the deer actually has a separate face layer, like here, you don't have to get real crazy blending, but you want to do, if you're going to add ink, you'll want to do it to the body. So you'll notice that my little polka dots on his hiney are poked out of this particular die cut. That's okay because they'll actually show through from the layer below. So that worked out perfectly in this case. And remember, that piece of washi back there is going to keep that layer in place. So now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of color to his face as well. So I've also die cut it out of the snowflake paper. I'm going to do the same thing with his face and just add a little bit of color here. Cute. Set that off to the side. And I'm actually going to give his face dimension as well. So I'm going to actually adhere these three layers together as well. And you might notice that this piece also has the eyes die cut out, but they're in place here. I'm going to make sure that those, I'm going to do my best to make sure that those stay in place, because I'm going to actually end up adding color to that back layer on the eyes. So there's one layer. And to make sure that those stay in place, I'm going to make sure I get a little bit of glue right over the top of those. You could put washi tape on there, but it's kind of a small area. So I find that just adding just a smidge of glue there does it just the same. Okay. And that's actually going to keep the eyes that are in this piece in place as well. Okay. Now I'm going to add a little bit of color to those eyes. I'm going to use a gray-green marker just because it has a really nice fine tip, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color in there. And I think what I'm going to do is, so that the ears aren't quite so deep, I am going to add color to a couple of the little punched out pieces here, if I can find them. Here's the other one. So I'm just going to add a real light pink to these pieces here. I think I'll use this one called Pinkish Vanilla, just to give those a little bit of color. And then I'm going to adhere those down in place by dropping just a little bit of glue down in there. And picking those die cuts up with a little pick. Oops, wrong side. And this is a pick-me-up. It's not my favorite tool because this thing is kind of gummy. But it's the one I have handy here on my desk. My favorite one is a jewel picker. It's probably, oh, here it is. It's laying right in here next to me. This is my favorite pick-me-up tool. It's called Jewel Picker by Marvy. And it has two different sized, slightly tacky tips. It works really well for picking up die cuts as well. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to put his nose in place as well. So I think what I'll do is just add a little bit of washi, and that will hold that in place. Sometimes when you die cut your pieces too, they don't completely fall apart on you. They don't completely fall, you know, away into their own pieces, and that can be kind of handy. But today they did. I'm just going to cut off that little extra bit here. You don't want any sticking out beyond the sides of his face. So there, now I have a full base layer that I can play with. So I'm going to actually set this die in as well, down inside there. And you don't have to do all these layers if you don't want to. I just kind of like the extra stability. All right, now I could add some ink to this too. I think I'm going to, and I think I'm going to be a little more heavy-handed than I was with his face, so that it's quite a bit darker in color, and that'll make it stand out on his face a little bit more. And I think what you could do too is add a little bit of pink to his cheeks too with a marker. I'm just going to leave it like this though today. Make sure I don't have anything stuck to the back of my paper. And now I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive here. Okay. Now I'm going to set his nose down in place. And instead of doing the woodcut piece for his nose, I'm going to set the woodcut layer down first. And then I'm going to set this one that's kind of the plain colored cardstock, that vanilla cardstock. I'm going to set it on top of it so that I can color it and give it a little bit of a different look. I'm going to color that with a brown marker, I think. You could do pink, you could do gray. I'm just going to go with brown today. These little antlers are getting stuck in my way here. And then I'll show you how this little jewel picker works. You just tap it and pick it up. It works great. Okay, just like that. Then what you can do, once you have all of your layers adhered together, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this guy in place. You can actually raise up his face on a pop dot, or you could adhere it down flat. I'm going to pop it up on a little bit of dimension here. I have some foam adhesive here that I'm going to use. You could use a little, one of those little wobble thingies. What are those called? Oh, you know what they are. Wobble, action wobble. That his head will wiggle back and forth. But I'm just going to use some foam adhesive here and set it down right over the background there. Cute. And if you want to give him antlers, you can, or you can leave it as a girl deer. Girl deer don't have antlers. Let's see, I'm going to check the back side here. I use the watercolor paper on the very back, so I'm going to be consistent and do the same thing. So I'm going to adhere this cream colored one on top of the watercolor paper. So that way my watercolor paper is on the very back, just like it is for him. And I think I'm going to leave that wood grain piece off and just adhere these down inside here using hot glue. Just like that. Real cute. Darling, right? So this is called Standing Deer, and this die released with the October release for Impression Obsession, and I hope you love it as much as I do. I think he's adorable. Thanks so much for watching, and until we chat again, take care. Bye!